about silly things like that.
We don't.
Do you guys care if he has a mint in his mouth?
Oh, are we live stream?
Yeah,
Hi.
live streaming. Hi. Ready?
Yeah.
Don't do that while I start this. Ready?
Yeah.
Unscripted.
Hey, Gisele.
Hey, Andy.
Do I sound funny?
Kerr Punk.
Thanks.
I'm trying to think of something for your name like all the time though. I'm always like Andy Kernappy Colonel.
Well, you know,
Carnivore.
I don't have children, but I thought about it. If I were to name, if I did have kids, and you know, usually I have to give them a name. I was, I was thinking of Joseph, which everybody would then call him Joker. Which would be
that would be amazing.
Fantastic.
Unless you were him, he would hate you.
Right. Hey, Joe.
Joker.
Yeah.
Although that's kind of a BA nickname.
It would be, like, especially if I did end up going into comedy and then, like,
right.
I know, right? That would just be a bad joke. So, but my grandmother's name was Ann. Kerr. So
Anchor.
And so one time, apparently, I don't know if this is true actually, or just something my dad wanted to do. But somebody called the house when he was a kid, and they said, "Is Kerr there?" And he said, "No, Kerr's away." So I don't know if that's actually true. Isn't that horrible?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's gonna happen,
I don't know if that was just something my father thought
I
about.
love your last name.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. You can do so many things
Right.
with it, and
Right.
you don't, but you could.
But I don't. Yeah, it could get bad really quickly.
Yeah.
So, anyways, hi.
Hi.
Unscripted, the podcast where you listen and we just talk. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we pretty much what we do here is just work out our problems.
Yeah. Did you have any problems this week?
I have all kinds of problems. There's so many things going on right now. I did talk about last time about stopping the radio show.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I had my officially last show, and they did a tribute. I think I talked about that already.
You did.
So, but I haven't gotten rid of anything else, and I just need to. I need to unload stuff, and I'm not sure.
What do you want to get rid of? Like, what could you get rid of? Like, off the top of your head, you know how, like, because I'm going to, like, life coach you, because that's what you did to me. You're like, don't think about it. Off the top of your head, if you had to say it right now, because you're about to die, what would you get rid of?
Not this podcast. I don't know. Honestly, like, every time I think.
Say it. You know it. You already know. In your gut, you know.
Yeah.
You already know.
No.
What is it?
I don't know. Nothing's in my gut.
Okay, well, that's all I've got for you, and I don't know how to life coach you the rest of the way. So.
I don't have any other strategies. No, every time I think about, like, all the things, I'm like, ooh, I love that. And
right, because they're not bad things.
No. I generally.
But if you have to choose your favorite things that you would be devastated to lose.
Okay.
Start there and work backwards.
Okay, well.
And then the less devastated you are
I don't want
to
lose my
them,
marriage.
Right, okay. So the less devastated you are, then those bottom three, you could chuck them.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm just saying, he did this exact exercise for me, like 7 years
Wow, that's brilliant.
When we were coaching.
Where did you think of that?
I think I wrote down like 11 or 12 things, and it was what brings you the most action and enjoyment and peace, and then work backwards, because all the things I had were really good. You're like, there's literally nothing here to cut that's like, that does nothing for you. Everything was good and beneficial and whatever, but even though maybe they're all equally beneficial, they don't all equally make me feel the same way. Like I receive more pleasure or peace or whatever and worked backwards. And then I ended up
sheer brilliance.
I ended up dropping a couple of committees, and like they were good things, good efforts, but they weren't serving me and my greater purpose. And so like my top things were working on my business and working on my personal peace, which was like my horse and stuff.
Yeah.
And so those things got moved to the top because they were at the bottom, and I was giving so much effort to all the other things that were great. But it was like someday when you get your business operating on its own, you can come back to the other things that you enjoy. When
Start
you have
incorporating
more
other.
time.
Yes. Well,
there you go, Andy.
All right. Well, thanks for listening today, everybody. That's all the time we have. We were just beforehand. We were trying to get all of our levels set.
Yeah.
And
I'm trying to teach Andy how to get the entire podcast set up.
Yeah.
And since he can't just remember it, we have to like go through and type it all out. And
too many steps.
Because my IQ might be a little higher than his, I'm able to just remember it after having done it once, and that's why
really
I
doesn't have anything to do with IQ.
up.
But
so we're gonna pretend that maybe it did have something to do with IQ. So as we're going through everything, I'm like, you got to EQ.
Yes.
The headsets and mics and I was like, what does EQ stand for?
It's like when you think about the Wi-Fi. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What's that stand for? So you look it up, go to Google,
now
and you're like,
look that one up too. What
Yeah.
does Wi-Fi stand for? Why do we not question things in life? Why do we just allow people to tell us
is
things
it wireless fidelity?
Is that it?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Anyways,
I'm like, hey, I need to know what this means because, the more you know.
Right. And what was the first
TV
thing?
show was that? Dun, dun, dun.
It wasn't a TV show.
It
was just like a commercial.
Oh, that's right. It was a commercial. I remember it as a show because it was always before like the Reading Rainbow.
Yes. Or
they
after
did that little rainbowy thingy. Yeah. So I thought it was like
that's
interconnected.
True. That's true.
Yeah. So we look up EQ, and it means we were trying to look up for on here, but which just means, what did I say it means?
It means
I'll look it up.
Emotional
quotient was what
popped
the
up.
Google showed me, and I was like, ooh, what's emotional quotient? And it's kind of like emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And it's like
your level of level or ability to read emotions in other people and yourself.
Right.
And
quotient was a result obtained by dividing one quantity by another, or a degree or amount of a specified quality or characteristic.
Yes.
So unlike saying emotional intelligence, like your intelligence is like set, like your IQ is like what are you capable of learning. So instead of saying what your emotional intelligence, like I feel like the difference is going to be like your intelligence is what your intelligence currently is, but your emotional quotient is what your capability is.
Yes.
Because it can continue to be divided, and I picture dividing as in like multiplying, not like splitting things up, and it's like either this way or that way.
Like the way
not
cells
like
divide.
Yes,
and grow.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like multiplication, and so like what is your capacity?
So if you have a low
expanding.
EQ, if you have a low EQ, you can actually work on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people are more naturally there already.
And then at the moment, like right at this moment, my EI, my emotional intelligence, is what I've learned and been capable of to this moment. But my quotient is so much larger, it can continue to expand. Just much like our IQ. So if Andy types out all the directions for this thing, he is expanding his emotional. And
I would like to know if there are like psychologists out there that actually know this stuff. Can your IQ go up? Like, can you gain IQ?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I mean, I know you can get smarter and retain more information.
Well, I mean, if you did an IQ test to a 10-year-old, they don't know because they haven't had the opportunity to learn everything they could know. So
but you can have a 10-year-old with a high IQ in an adult that
with
knows,
a low IQ, right?
Yeah, that knows a lot more information.
Because it's their capacity. The IQ, the quotient, is the capacity.
Okay.
With which you can continue to expand.
So you can expand your intelligence capacity as well? Is that what we're saying?
That's what we're saying.
Okay. Wow. Well, that's hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a doctor or scientist or anything, but I mean, maybe I'll research this a little bit more. But
if this
based
is totally
off of the
crap,
definitions,
this could be total crap, and people are like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking.
If that was true,
Please.
if you could not continue to expand your capacity to grow your IQ or your EQ, then why would we do coaching or any of this?
Yeah.
Why would we keep working on ourselves?
Yeah.
What would self-growth look like?
And I know a little more. This sounds funny. I know a little more about EQ than I do IQ. But because I do know that people
You've
gain
worked
and
in that
grow
industry a very long time, so
they can grow their ability to read emotions. And some people just grow up in families where there's a higher EQ already. And some people, depending on how they grow up, what their family members are like, whether it was a family with low emotional intelligence. And this, by the way, this has nothing to do with if one is an extrovert or an introvert. A misconception is that extroverts have a higher emotional intelligence and introverts have a low emotional intelligence, and that is not true at all.
Agreed.
But the most dangerous thing is an extrovert with a low emotional intelligence.
True.
Because they can't read anybody, but they want to meet everybody, and they're just like, they go around creating disaster.
I think
oftentimes.
To bring up my boyfriend, because I said I was going to bring him up almost every single episode now.
Oh, here we are.
Here we are.
Hey,
because he's hilariously my opposite. And like we're so similar in so many ways, and we're
is he the
in
introverted?
good ways.
Yeah.
Opposite.
Is he the introverted version of you?
He's the introvert extrovert. I'm the extrovert introvert.
Oh wow.
Right? Okay. So we discovered this officially on vacation a few months ago.
Yeah.
Because he kept asking if I wanted to go on the party boat where you go out to the shallow ocean, you get to jump in and swim with, I don't know, sharks and stuff. Yeah. I don't know. But you get to do that with like 40 or 50 people, and it's just like 4 hours of fun on the boat. And I'm like,
whoa.
Hell no, I don't want to be around that many people stuck on a little boat in the water.
Oh.
Like, I want to be able to get away from these people. Like, no, I don't want to be around
That's so interesting.
people. And he's like, loves to be around masses of people. And so it was then that we discussed, because he kept asking, and I'm like, yeah, maybe. He's like, I feel like you don't want to go on this boat. And I was like, yeah, I don't like being around that many. He's like, you around people all the time. You love speaking in front of people. I'm like, yeah, I like working in front of people. I don't like my personal time being with people.
Oh, interesting.
Very, very much. And I'm not alone in this. I discovered that my good friend Steph next door, right?
Yeah.
We were just talking about this. And she's like, that's exactly how I feel.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, not that we have a problem being with people or speaking around people or engaging, interacting. It's that in the capacity when we're working, when we have a mission, something that we're actually supposed to like perform or execute, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that capacity, we're like on it, on top of it. But as soon as it's like, I don't have something to do besides just enjoy myself. Well, I want to enjoy myself by myself. Like, and he's the opposite. He's very much introverted. He doesn't just go out and engage. He doesn't want to public speak and things like that. Yeah. That's not his thing. But he loves to be around people in his off time and just watching them and stuff. So I was leading to this because I believe his emotional quotient is higher than mine because he's constantly the quiet one reading people. Oh.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And I'm the one, I'm being energetic. And when I do go out, it's not that I don't talk to people. I get engaged and I'll enjoy myself,
Right.
But it's different. Like if I'm not centered on something to do with my business
that's so interesting.
Mission.
Well, the definition of somebody that is an extrovert or an introvert is actually not how outgoing they are, but how what charges their battery. Mm-hmm. And so, if you're an introvert, you may be really good at crowds of people, but in order to recharge, you actually have to get away from everybody. That's the definition of an introvert. which is really fascinating. You might be an introvert performer. You're really good at being like if I'm going to be out there, I'm going to be the center of attention.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I got to recharge.
Because I feel like maybe it's opposite, because like he recharges, like he'll go out to the bar and hang out with all his buddies. Everybody's there and he's talking and talking, engaging, and it's like, asking me like on a Friday night, you want to go out? I'm like, I just want to snuggle my dogs on the couch. But he also has a job that is very secluded, right?
Okay.
They're waterproofing basements, working on masonry. It's just him and maybe a couple other employees.
He's got plenty of time alone to think about.
So much alone time. And, as a business owner, it's just tons of paperwork and computer stuff, right? So he's like alone. Me, on the other hand, I'm in the coffee shop. Every job I've had has been lots of engagement with people, even from the fitness clubs and stuff.
And you love that.
I've been constant, and I love that as my job. I thrive on it. Yeah. And maybe if I didn't have that, I would want to engage more when I'm out.
I got you.
But in order for me to recharge, I have to be alone. I'm like, I need silence. I don't want to talk to anybody. Yeah. So it might be that, maybe what you're saying is true, but it could also be, what do you do for a living? What's the majority of your day spent on? And then it has that whole yin yang thing. Like, you got to have the balance, right? You got to have the chaos and the calm. And maybe your job is the calm and your personal life is the chaos. You know what I mean? I feel like my job is chaos, and so my personal time needs to be the calm. And that's how I feel re-energized.
Yeah. And I love both of those. I love, as an extreme extrovert, I feed off of people's energy. So and that's why introverts get so tired. Because I suck it out of them.
I was about to say, people feed off my energy, and that gets exhausting. Yeah. And I love that I'm energetic, and I'm not. Anyone meets me at within seconds, they're like, "Whoa, how do you live with all this energy?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I've met people more hyped up than me." So I'm like, I do. I just exist on this plane of. Once I get going, because it takes a couple hours in the morning. Like, it doesn't jump out of bed like this. Most of the time. It takes a few cups of coffee.
I've seen her before that, and
it's not the same as the 2 o'clock Gisele.
No. That's really funny. It's so true.
It's true. So I think maybe that's the parallel of maybe focus on that in your life. And it's funny that we even got onto this because the music. EQ meant equalization, and we were kind of like, ooh, that kind of actually ties in.
Yeah.
EQing the equalization of your emotional intelligence, right? And I think that plays a part in that whole chaos calm balance.
I'm gonna draw a direct connection. I think with emotional intelligence, what I find, especially when I'm coaching or when I'm working with somebody, what I'm always doing is trying to match. Or set my levels equal to the person that I'm with.
Right. What's that called? Especially in sales, it's like reading, or what is that?
Mirroring.
Mirroring. That's it. Yeah.
And it was interesting as I was reading about it. I guess I was reflecting on, my mannerisms, and it was just something I think that you pick up from other people, so that. It's what actually makes somebody feel comfortable with you. And so, my job, my whole life has been, I always joke about the fact that I have few skills, but that
you got all these little micro skills you forget you have.
Right. And using them all together to, accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish, helping people get from where they are to where they want to be. Takes trust, and you begin to trust somebody when they're somebody that matches your energy, matches your listens, not agrees, nods with you. And that seems like, that feels a little weird, but it happens in human beings.
Because it's validating.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not strange.
Yeah.
They act and talk and...
Right. And it creates a bond. It creates trust. And so then... And that's when you start to, if you don't have it naturally, it's something that you can learn. Now, if you mirror people awkwardly, it's going to seem really creepy. So don't.
No, we don't mean
Yeah. Right.
You know, moving your hands, your face. Go to YouTube. It's like he leans, I lean.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's not that exact, but
Yeah.
it's like the posturing, the energy level,
Yeah.
the amount of facial expressions, things like that. Like it's really all about that unspoken energy that you have to meet somebody where they're at. Like if they're, you know, sitting back, you know, arms crossed away, you don't lean forward into them and be all like up in their grill.
Because you've had, I think you probably have experienced that conversation with somebody that doesn't have it. And they're like, sometimes we call them close talkers, or some, you know, like
close talkers,
people that are invading your space.
Who likes a close talker?
And then you like lean back, and they like lean in. You're like, okay, pal.
Let's just put it out there. Close talkers don't know they have a problem.
No. No, otherwise, if they knew the ramifications of their actions.
Because they're like 1 in 387,000 people. I think most people are not close talkers.
I had this experience one time where this guy, God bless him, I don't know, it was in college. The dude chased me all over the room, and at some point I became aware that he just kept taking a step forward towards me, and I would take a step back. And at one point, I just wanted to see how far this would go.
If they would even notice, like, why are we circling the room?
Right, because at first I was just doing it to get my space back.
Yes.
And then I realized I was doing it. I was like, this is funny. And like he had no clue. And he was also like a listener. So he just kept talking. Yeah. So I just kept backing up. Yeah. And we went around a few desks and down the other side of the room over the course of like 20 minutes.
Oh my word. I am thinking
I'm not really proud of
that like, you know, as part of like emotional intelligence and when back to your point, like, can you grow is it set or whatever? I think not only can you grow it, I think you can diminish it by trauma, because I'm just recalling, you know, issues I've had in my relationship that, you know, it's not like outwardly spoken issues, but like internal struggles that I've been having, like healing and moving through certain things that I think you can actually suppress your EQ, right?
Yeah.
Take it back a notch, because maybe I'd grown a certain way, and then somebody comes in and says, "No, you're wrong. No, you can't do that." No, and every time you try to express it, like this is what happened with me in my marriage was anytime I started to cry or express, you know, anger or anything, like he would come at me like. Crying is manipulation, and you know,
all of
if
your
I was
human
to get
emotions.
angry, his anger went exponentially larger to crush me. And so, like, my responses kept becoming, "You cannot show anger, you cannot cry." You know, so after 15 years of that, it has taken just the few years that I've been out of it to like start to allow myself to exhibit anger. And then it was almost like too much. Like I felt like I was angry all the time. I was like, I just haven't been allowed to show anger.
Whoa, Gisele.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I'm not an angry person. But it was almost like years of anger. And then when something set me off, like my ex-boyfriend always set me off, I was just constantly on fire. Yeah. You know, literally burning up inside. And taking that and moving into like this healing that I've done being single the last couple years has been like crying. I have just non-stop crying and learning that I'm allowed to cry. It's not manipulation. It's so I want to add that as part of this, you know, maybe a little deeper than we usually go, but just because it's so relevant to me, and certainly we didn't plan on this, but I'm dealing with it currently.
This is unscripted.
I'm still learning. I'm still equalizing. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like I was not maybe even like equal when I got into a relationship. Right. Otherwise, I wouldn't have chosen the wrong kind of relationship. Yeah. So I was not even balanced then. But even coming through all of that, coming through the trauma, there's still hope. So to your answer, I believe there's capacity. If I didn't believe there was capacity to continue dividing and multiplying and growing within that space, then I would be a lost cause. And I don't think I'm a lost cause.
No.
So I think there is still more room for healing and growing. And
I love that.
Yeah. And maybe as we share and we like, you know, validate others, and as we accept that we can continue to grow and change and improve and come through things like that, that our quotient is expanding.
Well, that's so, that was beautiful.
Oh,
and
thanks.
I really appreciate you sharing that. And I know that, you know, sometimes when we give ourselves space and if I could, we're looking at our levels right now, and every time we adjust, we see we have to adjust down sometimes because we're peaking into like the red area.
I peak a little more often than he does.
But
turn her down.
it's beautiful. It just does something to the speakers. But what I love about this is that there's a meter, and you can look at the meter and see where you're at. And I think that is, having somebody in your life that can reflect back to you the things that you're not aware of. And that's, when we talk about life coaching, we talk about having a mentor relationship, friends that care about you, they can say, like, hey, you're peeking into the red there.
Yeah.
And that, like, let's dial that back. It's good in certain areas. We need to be able to have that period of time, what you're talking about, with safe people
whether
you
it's
trust.
a therapist or friends, for sure. I've had therapists, and I definitely have those 2 or 3 really tight, close friends that you can share, the most vulnerable things about yourself.
And they know that that they have your best interest in mind.
Yeah.
And that you can spend time. It takes time. It takes time to adjust the levels. It takes time to understand, what gets expressed in different places and what's healthy and what boundaries to put in. So like I can peek into the red with certain people as much as I want. They don't care, right? And they love it. Like
keep away,
keep going. But like this doesn't work everywhere, you know. And so I just really appreciate you sharing that. It's I think there's probably a lot of people that are trying to figure out what that means and how to use what they have and how to share and where to share and how to read other people's reactions, because sometimes you just don't know.
Yeah, because like I mentioned earlier, I started learning about that in sales when I was doing the fitness clubs, and I had probably started just naturally doing it, because if you have that ability to just start seeing things, I know most of the people I know they have that ability to see the body language and to understand. Most people have that, unlike close talkers. Most people see people's bubbles, how far those are, and that kind of thing. So I started doing that in sales early on in the fitness business, because when you're talking about women's weight, like, it's so personal to us, and it's so emotional. Like, that is one of the hardest things for us to talk about, discuss, try and fix. Like,
your body how
image,
you feel about yourself.
Huge trigger.
Yeah.
So for me, I had to like quickly respect, and I mean, having been through my own weight gain and loss issues, I was able to identify with all the problems they were having, but I was able to start reading body language before I understand I should be reading it and mirroring and such. So that was the start of my journey, like looking into body language. And there's so many great resources now that just didn't exist even 25 years ago, So it was hard, like just finding books, who's written a book on this.
Right.
And being able to just dive into understanding the psychology of that. And that's really what the EQ is. It's understanding the psychology of someone, and that's why they are who they are, whatever's happening in that psychology is how they're exhibiting their behavior. And so this not only applies to your own personal life, whether you're dealing in relationships, so it definitely 100% applies to your business and making better sales, being able to connect with people so that they believe in you, trust you, believe in your product or whatever it is, service that you're selling.
There have been some people that have said that having a high EQ or EI, depending on which book you're looking at, is a bigger factor in success in business and in life than IQ. That your ability to work with other people, to read people, and to do that actually has more impact on your ability to succeed in life.
Oh, I 100% believe that. And if you've read any of the great wealthy books that are out of wealthy peoples that have written anything about everything, about accounting or property investment, or like any of them, they will all say they're not the smartest person in the room.
Right.
Every single one of them will say that. Yeah, I met Glenn Stearns, and I was like, this dude is not a billionaire. Like, are you kidding me? Because you're expecting someone at that level of success to be like the most intelligent person you've ever met, and he's just going to speak way over your head about all these big words and sciencey things or something.
He's so down to earth.
He is so.
We're not saying that you're not smart, Glenn.
No, he's obviously brilliant. And the higher intelligence he has is emotional intelligence.
He meets you right where you're at.
Is so good at reading people and connecting with people. And I mean, if you follow his Instagram or anything, he talks about that a lot on his social media. That it is way more important than the the intelligence. Because you can always learn that's what I've done in business, that's why I know I've started doing this before I knew to do it. Because I didn't know shit about business. I was 19. I didn't know anything about accounting and employees, nothing. All of that I was able to educate on, right? The emotional intelligence, though, I was already at a little higher level than the average 19-year-old because I walked into doors and was making sales. Like, yeah, of course I can do this. I mean, I have a whole business.
I'm awesome.
A business of one, but you don't need to know that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and I've done every business like that. And so, like we all have certain characteristics. I think that was a stronger characteristic of mine, kind of going into it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
That's cool.
Hopefully this helps you guys. In some way.
So feedback to us about that. And if you are like a legit psychologist, psychiatrist, and like specifically about how like IQ works and all that stuff too, I would love to learn more.
Correct us if we've said anything wrong. Because we're literally just Googling. So, I mean, if we're wrong, it's because Google's wrong. You should contact them. Yeah.
You might want to switch up their algorithm.
But in the meantime, you loved hearing us talk about it. So 5-star it, like it, share it.
And call us, email us, something. Get a hold of us.
Because we have a website up. I'm still working on it, but I don't think we announced it. So we officially have our undashed-scripted.live.
Say that again.
Undashed-scripted.live.
So
you can check it out.
Scripted.
So if you want to know how to get to our YouTubes or podcast links, you can go on there. I'm working on building up more information about our own personal successes, biographies, and links to more ways that you can connect with us through coaching, through Honest.CEO, and find more out about that. So, stay tuned and check into the website, and please share it. It's a great way to share. If you don't know what platform people are podcasting on and such, you can always just share a website, and they can choose whatever they want.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
You did a lot of work on that. Thanks. You're awesome.
You're welcome.
Well, I think that's it. I think we pretty much talked about all of that as much as we know.
Yeah.
So
sounds good.
We love you guys.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
Bye. Peace out.